Marcos here. I'm homicide detective Lucas Boyd. 2 kids are dead. They were butchered like hogs. You know what these writings are, don't you?
Here I take the power. Here I become the power.
Jesus Christ.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2023 thriller, The Ritual Killer. The film is directed by George Gallo and it stars Morgan Freeman and Cole Hauser. Now the film focuses on Cole Hauser's character, who is a police detective, who is investigating some murders that are taking place that seem to be done in a ritualistic way. After picking up some clues at the crime scenes, he kind of puts 2 and 2 together and figures out that it's connected to Africa in some way, these ritual killings. So he contacts Morgan Freeman's character, who is a professor at a local university that gives lectures on South African culture. He hopes that this professor can help him and guide him and point him in the right direction in order to be able to track down this killer, who proves to be far more elusive than he first realised. Right. What are my thoughts on The Ritual Killer? Well, this one interested me for a couple of reasons, really. I like well-done thrillers and I like serial killer type films. Generally speaking, they can hold my interest if they're done reasonably well. Where does this one sit on the scale of quality? It's somewhere in the middle, I think it's fair to say. This I wouldn't describe as a bad movie. It just doesn't elevate itself in any way really to make it stand out from a pretty crowded group of films. Now Cole Hauser, who is having something of a resurgence in these last few years after his success on Yellowstone, is it? I think I think it's Yellowstone, the Kevin Costner show, which I haven't seen. So you start to see him pop up in movies like this. He's not in an awful lot of high-profile films, but he's doing quite a lot of these middling ones. And he's fine in this film as this police detective, if a little bit cliched. We've got the same old tortured cop routine, you know what I mean? He's lost a child, he's separated from his wife, so on and so forth. So you've got this whole tortured cop routine going on throughout the film, which that trope has been done to death. I don't necessarily think we needed this in the film. It didn't. Other than adding a little bit more depth to the character, I think you could argue. I mean, sometimes, if you don't do something like that, people like me will argue that there's not enough character development. So I suppose they would argue that you can't win either way. It just didn't feel necessary, really, and it felt a bit cliched. But other than that, it's a fine performance, and he actually holds the film particularly well. Morgan Freeman playing like this university professor with this knowledge on Africa, which is what he's lecturing in. Again, he's fine. He's almost like an advisor for the majority of the film. And, you can't really criticise his performance. Is it outstanding? Is it full of energy? No, but it doesn't require it to be either. It kind of does exactly what it says on the tin, his performance and his character, until the film needs him to do something else, which I'm not going to spoil, but he has a bigger part to play in the conclusion of this film, Morgan Freeman's character. I think the film, for me, I think sometimes some of the best serial killer films work better when they lean heavily into mystery and lean heavily into, keeping the identity of the killer hidden for a good portion of the film. And some of the finest examples, like Seven, for example, are really good at that. This one, I think, reveals the killer way too early. You can understand why it does it to a large degree when it kind of explains itself as the film goes on, because essentially this killer is, and I don't want to spoil who this killer is and what his reasons are behind the killings, but essentially he's kind of working in cahoots with somebody else, and that's as far as I want to say on the thing, really. So it does kind of make sense why his identity is revealed, or we get to see who this killer is. But it takes away that mystery as to who the killer is. Now it does try and replace that, this film, late into the proceedings, with a twist. I was about to say I'm not sure it was a particularly effective twist, but I didn't see it coming, so I suppose it was to some degree. It just wasn't particularly inspired, and again, I can't spoil it, but the twist that we get, it just kind of make you scratch your head and think, "Hang on a minute, I'm not sure that'd kind of work," and it didn't. If you say it didn't, it didn't necessarily lay the foundations to get away with the twist it gives, and the film for me leans far too heavily into, like, you know, the cop drama stroke thriller cliches. You've got the captain not believing anything he says, you know, Cole Hauser's character arguing with him and not being on board. You know, it's the old cliche, you know, wagging your finger captain at the police detective sort of thing. And then there's this weird kind of side story that they try and weave into it, like this killer, this ritual killer, has operated on the European continent. I think it's Amsterdam, something like that. So you get clips of him over there, and then you get clips of Cole Hauser's character kind of interacting with Amsterdam to kind of get information stuff. And the crossover for me just doesn't work. It's almost like the film just doesn't need it, really. It doesn't change how graphic and horrific the killings are in America just because he was doing it in Amsterdam. It doesn't necessarily make the film any better, and it just kind of drags it out a little bit more. And I suspect they could have probably edited that European stuff down quite significantly, because I don't necessarily think it added anything significant to the film. And it's got that simple cliche again that these sort of films use occasionally. You know, while he is doing a bit of investigating here and there, the Cole Hauser character, you know, there's a couple of occasions where, you know, they get this crucial lead that leads them directly to the killer, and a chase ensues. You know, you've seen it time and time again in these movies. The chase is fine and that kind of stuff. It's just what gets him to that point just feels kind of, you know, telegraphed and a little bit predictable. So I don't think this is a bad film. I actually quite enjoyed a few parts in the film. It's certainly watchable. If you like a good cop thriller and you like serial killer movies, there may be some stuff for you to enjoy. Just don't expect like excellence here, because you're not going to get it. It kind of it's one of those films where when you finish watching it, you kind of think, that could have been a lot better if they'd have done this or if they'd have done that. It's just a shame that they didn't really, and what they aimed to do was just kind of give us a bang average serial killer thriller. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and please consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Thank you very much.